Hello, you are listening to the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I am your host, Adrian, and today I will be talking about Dragon Age, the Veilguard, and more. If you like this episode, leave a like and comment on what video games or books or any other media you want me to read and experience and talk about here in the podcast. Now, let us get started. Happy Friday, everybody. We are back. I hope you all had a lovely Halloween. This year we got to do pretty cool stuff for the podcast around Halloween and stuff. So I'm looking forward to next year. I'm already thinking of what I could do in terms of games and media that's already out right now, and I'm looking forward to what's going to be announced soon because there's like alien movies and like all kinds of stuff. So yeah, if there's any cool Halloween ideas you have for me on the podcast, let me know down below, and any comments, just let me know. And so I just want to update the podcast a little bit, give a little foresight into what's gonna maybe be in the future for now. November is like National Native American Heritage Month, which is pretty cool. It's November 29th, which is the day, but I would kind of rather have it be like for the month because maybe sometime closer to the day itself will feature a few books centered around, Native American heritage. And I didn't really do too much background to myself. I just kind of typed in books around Native American um, Heritage Day, and I got a list. But I'll dive deeper once I get like into a, more concise list of what I want to actually read. 'Cause I got a pretty good, decent list of intriguing books. There's The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters, and Even As We Breathe by Annette Saunouc, which is more like a scientific book from what I've seen, but it's not, not new to the podcast. We've done it before earlier in April, so that's gonna be pretty cool. Killers of the Flower Moon, which is like about the murders of some poor girl or women in of Native American heritage and like the birth of the FBI or something by David Gran. And then, a whole list of books I would like to give some kind of try. But once I get a chance to either buy or get one from the library, I'll, you know, definitively pick one and then we'll go on from there. Because I'm not really too picky. I would rather just have a book that's either written by somebody from the heritage themselves or, be centered around it. And I'm most likely would rather just pick an author writing about it than someone else of a heritage. That's just me. But I'm trying to branch out newer book topics, stuff like that. I think it's going to be a lot more diverse and interesting here for the podcast. So, on that same note, it's also writing month, and I'm not a particularly, keen uh, writer myself. I'm not really skilled at it. It's relatively fun for me, just kind of getting ideas down, especially for like tabletop RPG writing, all that kind of stuff. But there's all kind of creative writers out there. But even kind of any kind of writing practice I know is like really good for people. So the only thing I recommend for this month, which I might give a read again sometime in the future here for the podcast because I think it's actually really fun and he has a really good way of weaving in like fun story examples of like his own life and writing experience for like just the overall experience. Because for me as a writer, I can only write about things I know, and I think Stephen King even says that himself in the book. So I've said it already, but it's going to be Stephen King's On Writing. Might have mentioned it before here on the podcast, but I think it's really insightful book for just like writing doesn't have to be this like formulaic process. I really don't think it does, right? Like school had like this way of like teaching you of just like you have to follow these relatively certain rules. It's just like if you have an idea, just get it down on paper and just see where you go from there, get what you can and then see what you might want to improve on, what might be interesting to you, where you might think certain moments or stories or characters might go and branch out, or even just try doing wacky things. And then, draft, and just try again and again until, you're relatively satisfied and you want to share it with someone you trust or the public or online or, someone else. And that's just like the way it is. I think the people really like writing, people really like stories, and that's just kind of really a fun outlet for a lot of people. On that same note, there's like a website, NaNoWriMo, right? It's like a site, a group that helps writers get, I think, book publishes. I haven't looked too much into it. I only found out about it today, but I think that's pretty cool. So, check that out if you're an aspiring writer. Give them a shot. For writing month here, we're going to talk about them for a little more on the podcast. I'll give them a little more in depth look, but I'm just here to promote, really positivity in terms of like creative writing, all, expression, all that kind of stuff. I'd rather have just as many resources for as many people if you're just trying to do anything, right? Here on the podcast, it's fully funded by me. You know, it's only been me for the most part. So everything from what I read to what I play to what I talk about is mostly like funded entirely by me. So it's pretty fun. So I just would rather have people be interested and do what they want to do and just express themselves in that same way. And that's really all I could say for that. Now, on that same note, I'm not really sure what I'm gonna read into the future. I kind of like being on the same manga path that I've been going on for the year, cycling between like a book or two and then reading a manga. So maybe for the rest of the year, I'll try and focus on one more manga. I'm not really sure. I was reading Initial D and I was having a really fun time with it, right? But I couldn't find a certain chapter online for free, and I'm not really gonna necessarily pay for it right now. I'm not really super interested in like reading it. Maybe I'll watch the anime or do something else in the future. But I was having a really good time reading the manga. But I'm not really too interested in those kind of genre right now. But it was a really good um, experience so far. I got into chapter 78. And then I just couldn't find the rest of the chapter stuff. So hopefully I can read more in the future, but I want to give a more long form shonen anime or manga a try. Just ones that I haven't really gotten to give a really full chance. Jujutsu Kaisen was one that I considered, but I'm thinking we'll just do the anime when season 3 comes out, right? I'm pretty excited for that. And honestly, I'm more leaning towards starting Hunter x Hunter or the Zatz Bell mangas because I know Hunter x Hunter just restarted. They got a few more extra chapters within the last few weeks or so. I'm not really sure what their schedule is, but I'm pretty sure what I saw on the app that they were pretty recent within the last month or two. And I heard that the Zatz Bell manga has a part two, like a sequel, and I liked the anime. The anime was really cool when it was on Toonami. That's awesome. So I'm leaning towards that. So either one of those two will probably be my next pick if I lean towards a manga, barring whatever national Native American heritage book that I find. So I think this would be really fun. And then we'll just go on from there. Um, we're still watching Fullmetal Alchemist. We're just doing that Brotherhood show, and I'm really liking it so far. Again, I've had a really good time watching that with the girlfriend. Um, for another anime, today they put out Dragon Ball Daima's episode 4. Now, it was pretty much a little faux Dude Was My Spaceship kind of episode in a small way. If you've been watching up to episode 3, you might already know what I mean, but go give it a watch. It's pretty fun. Now, I like this show. It's pretty exciting to have the same Dragon Ball formula that we've always loved from the old show, and in my opinion, GT still has that, so I would count that in that same way because the Dark Dragon Balls and Space Arc where you get introduced to Baby and that bridges into like Shenron towards later day. I loved all that. I think it's pretty fun. And on the same note, this episode of Dragon Ball Daima kind of goes into the origin of the Dragon Balls, which is crazy. So not really to give too much spoilers, but I think that's a pretty cool. And this episode's been really fun so far. They have really cool spin on sensu beans and fusion in a real way. I won't say what it is. It's actually I think pretty interesting. And it kind of makes me feel like they might make a RPG game out of this because it might be pretty fun the way they're going about it. Um, and they start introducing some really cool characters. I think we might have been introduced to Deborah's daughter, which is actually pretty interesting. So it's only a guess, right? We don't actually know. It was just like a face reveal. That's really all we got. But it's not really the face that gives it to me. I just kind of feel like it might be kind of related to a character we might already know to some way. That's just a guess, right? And I feel like it's Deborah, just because they're in the demon realm. That's just it. But yeah, Dragon Ball Daima has been really fun so far. And you know, just for the last current thing that I'm doing right now, I'm playing Persona 3 again. I started playing Persona 3 Reload. We still haven't beat Wukong. I just really haven't been feeling the action RPG style right now. I've kind of been feeling more towards like the turn-based stuff. I've been really wanting to play ReFantasio, right? I saw some memes and I was like, that game looks interesting. And I'm dying to play it. So I'd rather finish Persona before I do it. So we finished the game. We finished Persona 3. Um, awesome. Just as fun as Persona 5, Persona 5 Royale. just that kind of casual style game. And yeah, it's like long, but I don't really mind that. And I never played the original Persona 3, like finished it. I had the PS2 version, got like maybe like 4 hours into it, and I never liked you couldn't control your companions in the same way as you could almost any RPG. It was just very not my style. So being able to play the remake was actually really great. And I really loved the side characters, the companions, and then like the social links. My favorite is Suimichu, the big tubby kid. Oh my God. Going out to eat with him was always fun. And then, Bebe is great. I loved him. Um, and Kenji, the guy dating the teacher, loved him. Glad to see him get his social link up. That was really fun. But you know, this game also has like faux romances, and that was always fun in like RPGs. That kind of high school experience has always been like a very big thing in anime, and that transforms into this game, all that kind of stuff, right? I will say the high school kind of setting has gotten a little old, at least in my mind. Like I'm not a high schooler anymore, and these games are kind of made for those kind of experiences. But I would like to see them do a more adult themed kind of one, like college, right? Now I don't know specifically how it works in ReFantazio, but I think they're still like school, right? I haven't really looked into it, so I'm not really gonna, say that it's not the same thing, so it might be. But what I'm saying is like, what if there's like a college, right? But like you can pick like a class, like your semester, right? You pick a class, semester classes, and those like gear up certain stats if you take them, whatever your major might be. That could be like a fun way to like express your arcana, and you make a really fun character, right? They don't have the female protagonist in the third game, and at least the reload, right? And they kind of don't have that in four, I don't believe, or four golden, and then completely ixnay that in five. And what I'm saying is like it can kind of go a really fun way where they make it um more traditional RPGs with the customization and stuff, just to have the same kind of degree of like expression where you can get female characters is like big. I don't know why they don't have a female character in three reload. I don't know why didn't have that, and I would hope six has that, right? I would really hope so because I feel like that would draw in way more people. If they added like a few customization options just to the same like degree that anime styles are traditionally like are in the Persona games and a lot of other media, that would be really more interesting than like the way that, the customization is seemed to be like like expressed in just Western like games. We have games like Dragon Age, and some of the customization stuff is a little questionable in that. Just I haven't really dived it too much into that, but it's just like I would like to see Persona pursue a little more at like uh, advanced like gaming mechanics that just like allow more fun to Persona games. Like it's just those games are even long too, so like even just adding those like little bits of detail would even just add into the replayability. Because I would love to go back and play Persona 3 again. 4 is one that I would really like to finish, but sometime soon. That's on the PS2, right? Just only that, or like it was ported to PC and all kinds of consoles, right? Recently. 5 is more modern, it's on more consoles. I've already played both games, and I don't think I'm gonna play that game particularly again. I played it twice, and it was like very long. Um, and yeah, I really like Persona, so I'm excited to see where the ending of episode Aegis goes. This is where you play Aegis, and I'm pretty excited to see where these uh like levels go for this new like underground Tartarus. That's gonna be really fun. I know this episode of animes, so maybe the episode of animes um, move on to like more detailed like lore stuff. I'm not really sure because the lore is kind of like not really super uh, like explained, particularly in the Persona games. It seems from what I've seen from only finishing about two of them, three and five and Royale for the most part. That's only really what it seems, right? Um, but I'm just here for the experience, right? I like the RPGness of it. I think the mechanics of it is very fun. It's like very much like Pokemon. You have the ideas of just type type mechanics where like you do advantage or weakness, that kind of stuff or whatever. And then you have like this party of interesting characters who have advantages and stuff in the same way that like you want to advance like the weaknesses or use those and all kind of stuff. And yeah, I would really like to see where Persona advances in the future, just to really make the game more. enjoyable in like the RPG way, where it's like I don't think that needs to change. I think that's just like a really fundamental like formula to the entire experience. It's very simple as well, so you don't really have to go too much into it. Maybe have more like crafting stuff or even just more personas just to use. I'm not even sure what uh the Persona list is. I'm not really gonna look at the wiki, but it seems like the Persona games use the same monsters or personas at the same time, right? So as each other. So that's really all I can see. I could be completely wrong, but I would really like to see them kind of really change up that formula a little bit. College would be, I think, a great ideal. I'm not really sure how college works, particularly in um, Japan's culture, but even like having a definitive side job could be really fun for as an adult in terms of like making money in the ways you do in Persona, and like the companions you could have, they'd be way more defined in their stories, right? The stories that you could have, because there's even adult characters that you befriend as a high schooler, but you're mostly only locked to high schoolers. And high schoolers' problems, yes, they're varied and very like defined on their own, especially in like very different cultures. But in high school they're all kind of the same, right? There's like the class schedule, and then like there's people worrying about it. There's the kids who aren't doing well in sports, and right, college school kind of has that. But even in adulthood, people more like jobs and like different interactions you can get. So it doesn't really have to be that same way. But even as playing as an adult, you can have different kind of interactions from the people you're just dealing with, and I'm excited to see where it goes because it seems like Persona and maybe in a different way, Yakuza, in the same way GTA is a reflection of like, modern society. The Persona and those kind of different games are in the same way, and I really enjoy those games that are mirrors of our reality, and they have a fun spin on it, right? It's like fantasy, fun, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so Persona's been really fun. And to say that like the last game I'll play in the year might be Final Fantasy 14. If I finish Persona 3, ReFantasio, and obviously finish Dragon Age pretty soon. But I really want to just catch up on Dawn Trail. I want to start it and finish it definitively and do that sometime before like the end of January, ideally. That's usually like the time I can go back to MMOs. It's like the winter time, the holiday season, and that's pretty much the where we are for this timeline, right? That's where we are right now. I'm excited where we're going. So Dragon Age, let's do it. Um, it came out yesterday. I couldn't get the day off, but we got today. So here we are on the podcast, and I'm not really going to make this episode really too long, but I have a lot to say about Dragon Age, and um, you know, I would like to talk about the game in its entirety. I haven't finished it. I haven't finished it. I'm only maybe about, in the full length of time I've been playing it, maybe about 12 hours. Um, and we only got three out of the six or seven party members that you could even have in the whole game. And yeah, there's a lot of things about this game that are different in terms of the Dragon Age formula, right? It's nothing like Dragon Age Origins or Inquisition with the turn-based, slow, uh, like methodicalness of it to that same degree. I don't remember if Dragon Age 2 particularly had that. I think it just kind of froze at the same time. You couldn't like use different characters and command them in the same way as that the first two games had that same kind of mechanic. I could be totally wrong. I haven't played Dragon Age 2 in a while. I would have liked to here for the podcast to done that whole time again. IGN gave it a 9. I was surprised. I was actually a little more excited to play it. I was like, I was obviously going to get the game anyway. And before I even played the game, I would have liked to experience all of the Dragon Age stuff again. But I just didn't have time. And for the podcast, I kind of want to do a different kind of stuff. Um, and I wasn't really hyped for the game up until its release. I wasn't really excited for it. There's a lot of things holding me back, just the way it was presented in the trailers. It didn't feel like the return of Dragon Age. And from what I was seeing up until the release of the game was what I see all the time when games come out was when these companies about launch a project and just before the game even comes out, the reviews are relatively limited, and then they're talking about the next game. They don't even they glance over the current game. They don't even give it time to like breathe. It's like, all right, here we go. Here's Mass Effect, and that's pissed me the fuck off so much. That's been my pet peeve for so long. Like you are already working on like two games since the essentially Andromeda failed. Inquisition came out. Um, I'm not even sure which one came out first. I think it was like Inquisition was 2014, so I think that Andromeda was 2017, and then Anthem was like 2019 or 2020. And then they put out the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect, you know, relatively recently, 2021, and here we are, Dragon Age Veilguard, right? And this game, it feels like BioWare just wanted to rush past this launch. It just feels like they wanted to rush past this game coming out. Um, and that really kind of just lost the excitement for me. Now, I will say it's not like that they didn't try, right? They actually did something pretty cool, and they put out like a podcast teleplay series, uh Dragon Age Vows and Vengeance. So actually I really liked it. I went and listened to it. I was gonna do it earlier in the year, like during dentist appointments, but I chickened out, right? I like music with during my dentist appointments, I'll be completely honest. Um and then I just didn't really get a chance to listen to it, and I kind of did it over the last few days, and I think the voice acting is really cool. The soundtrack is a little odd sometimes during the um the teleplay, the production or whatever it is. And honestly, the overall story beats was really cool. The episodes are very different each time. You're not actually with the same characters the whole time. It's not like a party adventure and it changes group by group. You get introduced to certain characters that are companions in Veilguard. So I would rather, if you're getting into Dragon Age, um, Veilguard for the first time, maybe give Vows and Vengeance a shot. It might be a really cool introduction for you. Obviously, if you're a fan of Dragon Age, you're going to play it already if you haven't done that. And, I really liked it. It was actually a really cool addition to the franchise, I think. And I would love to listen to it again during another playthrough of the Dragon Age series, relevant to time and whether or not this series and this company lasts in the future. But so, Dragon Age over the course of its revealment, which gameplay wise, we didn't really get a whole bunch of it until earlier this year, if not like I think right before Game Awards last year. I could be wrong, but we relatively only got gameplay pretty recently, and it looked shoddy at most, right? It just didn't really look the same kind of gameplay similar to what we've had in other games, and it certainly didn't look like gameplay that was pretty common nowadays for a third-person action game, right? I can think of a bunch of games that kind of have a different style gameplay, and after playing it, right, I will say besides the way it was advertised, it doesn't feel as clunky or feels a little heavy, but overall it kind of feels very fluid. You have decent movement, you can jump and do air attacks even, you can dodge and block, at least as a mage, right? So obviously you can do that with other classes. Um, but that's really fun. I've been having a really fun time with the gameplay. You hold a button and like a wheel comes up and you use your companions' abilities on top of your own. I will say that from what I can tell, you can only really slot like four spells as a mage at once. Like three regular spells, I think, and then like your ultimate. And I don't know. That feels kind of like not a lot. You do get pretty decent like regular attacks. You got like a regular mage shot, and then like the sword stuff too. But like that, there's like less damage, and like a shorter range. But what I will say, the biggest thing that I disliked about the game is that you can't play as the other classes. It's crazy that you can't do that. You could do it in the other three games, and pretty much once you pick a class of your own, you could have at most like two of the same class if you wanted to have one of each, right? Whenever I play Dragon Age, I always play a mage, so at most you would always have um, two mages, a warrior, and a rogue, right? Unless you really want to do something like two mages and two rogues, or two mages and two warriors, something like that. But you would always have that kind of cool dichotomy of being able to choose who you want to play as at the time, no matter who your party was, even your original character. And I'm disappointed. I'm so disappointed. It doesn't feel the same. Like the mage is cool. I like playing it, but I would also like to maybe experience what the warrior would feel as the warrior class, especially if I'm going to be trying to pick what their skills are, how they work. Like you got kind of got to trust that the AI is doing what they're doing in terms of this game. I hope you don't hear the honking that's outside. So Yeah, that's probably the biggest letdown so far out of playing the game for maybe only a couple hours out of like what is it? They say it's like 50 hours on an average playthrough, right? At least on the website. Links will be down below for any kind of like relevant references that I try to make. But so far, like the website says, it's about 50 hours. That's way shorter than Dragon Age Inquisition. Dragon Age Inquisition with DLC is like maybe 180, and I think with the without the DLC, it's like when we're on 150 on its own. So, and then, whoo, man, I just it's not fun the way that it's made right now. I hope maybe in the update they allow you to switch the characters and let you play as your companions. That's just like these video games have this way of taking mechanics that have been, in my opinion, staples to their franchise and stuff like that. And they just kind of, instead of uh, advancing or adding, they take away in terms of like just making it more streamlined and stuff. And that's just not fun to me, right? Um, I'm playing this game, and to me, it feels like, why does this game not feel like Baldur's Gate? I don't know. I might leave the pause in after that just for dramatic effect. I usually cut out long pauses, but I'm just like, why is this game not like Baldur's Gate? You know, I know they came out around the same or like were announced maybe around the same time, right? It was only been 2 years, but if you think of like Baldur's Gate is a turn-based RPG on like oldest RPG series you could have, and it's fundamentally one of the biggest games of our lifetime, our experience, right? Of just being a gamer. Baldur's Gate really does that same thing. I know that like CRPGs is really um a newer genre now than it was earlier, right? There's like smaller titles, but Baldur's Gate obviously, right, it blew it up. It blew up the genre on its own in a way that it hasn't been done in a few decades. I love the CRPG genre. I like those turn-based games, but the action games are fun too, but this game does not feel like an action game of 2024. And I think of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I mean, that game was so fun. And you can play as the other characters and switch them. I paid $70 for this game. I haven't finished it, but it's just like I can only play the mage this playthrough, and usually my second playthrough is a warrior, and I've never done a rogue except until recently with the podcast. So now you're telling me I do actually have to play the game multiple times to experience each class. That's garbage. That's garbage. I mean, I don't like that. I don't like that games are taking away that experience. I don't like that kind of choice. I feel like that's bad. Uh, it's not the same experience. And even to that same degree, right? You don't experience the world in the same way as you do in the older games. Now, I know a lot of people say that like you don't want to have like all these fetch quests, or you don't want to have to go across like miles or kilometers of in-game map to get some kind of thing to bring back to a person. And that's all fine. And I get that, like, relative to the story, people are like gung ho, go, 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 straight forward to the narrow. But, I went to Devinter. I got far enough to where you get to experience Tevinter for the first time. The capital of the city, like the country, right? And I you can't do a whole lot. There's a few merchants, and there's maybe two like dialogue bubbles people to talk to, but it's just this isn't the same kind of game. Like, you're not talking to people, you're not talking to them into like any kind of relative like meaningful way in terms of what the BioWare games are all about. It doesn't even feel like a BioWare game. It doesn't feel like a BioWare game. You don't make the same kind of BioWare decisions that you did in the past, and it's so awful. I don't think I like it because it's not the same experience as a BioWare game. I mean, you look at Mass Effect as a trilogy, that has like the same things across the same board. Even Andromeda has the same thing. Like, you still talk to some smaller groups of people and makes bigger decisions that maybe impact them larger branch of the game, you don't even have a chance to like input your uh choices from the past games into this game and advance. I know that's like maybe something they said that like they weren't really focusing on, and it's just like as a fan of Dragon Age, I feel it's like uh skipped. I feel like neglected for like being a fan of what they made in the past because like that's a fun experience. Like um they the origins of this game, um, when you make your character, when you start out making your character, you just customize your character. You choose a class or race, background, and the background you choose, you don't even get to experience the background in a way. Like I don't even know what it is. There's a lot of options, right? But like in Dragon Age Origins, you can experience every single origin that made like sense to the game. And then when it looped back around to the origins, whether you played a dwarf in Orzammar, whether you were Daedalus or a the elves in the ghetto area of the city in Origins, or you were a mage in the circle, going back to those places where you came from and experiencing them in a different way is what made Origins so great. Dragon Age 2, right? It's about family, and maybe it's not the same way as like some other games with their um player characters, but having a mom in that game is actually pretty fun, and watching her like she worries for you, but she just wants the best for you, and she can't do anything right. She's just the mom, and you have to take care of her. I think that's pretty cool. You don't see that in RPG games a whole lot. And then or Inquisition, you just play as a dude who's gets this power, and this is what I hate the most. This game, Veilgaurd feels like Inquisition 2. You basically are doing the same thing with protecting the veil. Someone's trying to break in the veil. The veil being open, right? It's relatively the same thing. The graphics kind of really don't feel like they're a modern game. I don't really like the art style of it, particularly. It's definitely a good looking game. It looks nice to look at, but I'm not a really fan of the big art style and the graphics. At least in the PS5, it could be a little better. It's just doesn't feel like a BioWare game in my opinion. I do like the characters though, right? I think the party members that you have in the game are really fun. Having Lace Harding back is a really cool take on having a new rogue, and I won't say any more on that. I actually really enjoy having the female droids back as companions. I don't think there's a whole lot of them in some of the games. You get right, Lucanus is a character I just got, and he's pretty cool. He's like a mage, and then you get already met two mages so far, right? Nev and Balara. Those are my four companions so far, so I haven't gotten any of the other ones. But I only have two mages, so I can't play as those other two, and I only have two. Well, sorry, Lucanus is a rogue, and so I only have two rogues, so I don't even got a warrior at all. Well, at least for my party. And man, I just wish I could play as some of the other characters. You just play as a mage, and it's really sad. So I think I expressed my first opinions of Dragon Age so far. I definitely would like to just definitively say that like I won't say it's bad or good or anything until I even finish the endings. I still think that the action game is still fun. I'm enjoying playing as a mage. The overall experience of the gameplay is fun. What they're delivering is a fun experience, even though it's not the same as the previous games. I don't think that Switch is warranted any kind of positivity. I don't think I should be happy about that because it feels like this isn't the same kind of game. I mean, I paid $70 for this game, but it doesn't feel like the game that I've been hoping for as a fan previously, even if they may say anything about something like Mass Effect not having anything to do with the same way Dragon Age was made previously, right? There's an article, I'll pull it up, right? Right. Mass Effect director says the next game won't feature any Veilguard style aesthetic switch ups. Mass Effect is photorealistic and will be as long as he's running it. Now, I don't think that's true. I don't think he can mean that because one, it's such a great style, Mass Effect. It's such a great style. It feels actually kind of like we can advance there, and it's not too fantasy. It's not even like it's like perfect sci-fi to have these aliens, and it's actually Mass Effect 3 2 looked really good, especially Legendary Edition. Mass Effect 1, previous original, right, looked really bad, but the original remade looked really nice, at least from what they had. And oh man, looking at just the images from Mass Effect, it looks better than in the Veilgaurd. It just does. I don't believe that Mass Effect is going to retain any kind of semblance to what the trilogy was, or Andromeda. I liked Andromeda. I said it before. I disliked at least the disparity between the races coming into the France into like the Andromeda world. I think that was the biggest mistake. They talk about that in the books, and maybe that's some kind of thing with the sequel that they're going to do for Mass Effect 4. I haven't read the books. I don't necessarily want to. I didn't like the first one, but Andromeda at least had that same kind of Mass Effect feel. In my opinion, it still felt like a Mass Effect game to a certain degree, even if it wasn't in the same galaxy to be the same setting. That's not the same thing as this game. I think this the Veilguard just kind of forgets what made it special, what made Dragon Age special as an RPG, and it's the same kind of stuff that's really fun about Baldur's Gate. It's being able to have small interactions, interact into like small details with people, and be able to change small things that might blow up into big things or affect larger overall outcomes. And this makes me like that kind of drastic change to fix a degree of like modernity to your games makes me worried for things like Elder Scrolls 6. Like Fallout is based on a real world. So I think you can kind of pick and choose what's sci-fi and fantasy in like a more centered real world fantasy setting. I think that that's totally fair. Even if, like it's sci-fi, right? But I think that like it's fictional, so it's like more branching on the real world. It's a faux future. We can pretend like it's not our future or sci-fi or fantasy in that way, but it is. Mass Effect in that kind of way is the same. Dragon Age is not. Dragon Age is not, and Elder Scrolls is not. There are humans in there, but they're not the same kind of humans as we are. They're humans that lived in a time where we do not experience now, at least in certain parts of the world. We don't have that kind of same lifestyle. We're not in kind of a weird world where monsters live and they kill us or they possess us with demons, and we're not really in that. So there's some kind of way where these games need to feel the same way from Origins to Veilguard, and it doesn't feel like that. It feels like this game is so disconnected from that whole trilogy, and it makes me upset. It makes me sad. So that's all I gotta say on, Veilguard. I will finish it. I'll talk about it on the next episode, and that'll be another Friday in the future. And yeah, so there's a whole bunch of things that I would like to talk about here for the whole podcast, but uh yeah, I'm just burnt out of Dragon Age. I've been burnt out, and uh I've been looking forward to it, and now it's here. It doesn't feel like the same game. You have a returning character, and it's Harding. Who, who? It's not even like I mean Varric. I don't think you play as him. I mean that's kind of sad, right? In terms of like not having a rogue. Um, you don't have I mean Solus is like an enemy. It's sad. No Inquisition characters even show up. It's just sad. I'm not even. I don't know why I'm still talking about it. I think I'm just gonna upload the episode because that's pretty sad. The realization like I don't like this game. I think I realized that I don't like Dragon Age Veilguard, and I don't know why I paid like $70 for it.